The moon's shadow crossed Europe on a schedule that had been known for years. Yet when it arrived on August 12, 2026, the real shock was not the darkness, it was the price, more than $1,000 a night for an ordinary hotel room beneath a 2-minute shadow. That is the contradiction at the center of this story. A fully predictable natural event produced a sudden, extreme price spike across the travel market. And it happened in the open, with no price cap stepping in to stop it. Start with the schedule. On Wednesday, August 12, 2026, a total solar eclipse swept over Greenland, Iceland, and Spain, briefly revealing the sun's outer corona in the daytime sky. On the ground, the longest anyone could see that corona was 2 minutes and 18 seconds. That number, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, was not a surprise to anyone who looked. It was the first total solar eclipse visible in Europe since March 20, 2015, and the first visible in Iceland since June 30, 1954. In Spain, the eclipse passed from the Atlantic coast to the Mediterranean, visible from A Coruña, Valencia, Zaragoza, Palma, and Bilbao. Madrid and Barcelona sat just outside the path of totality. In other words, the entire supply of total shadow was fixed, mapped, and dated years in advance. Every city on the map knew whether it was inside or outside. The demand just had not shown up yet. That fixed map became the pressure point before the first room was even listed. The eclipse had not yet arrived, but the geometry had already done its work. The pressure needed a valve, and the valve was narrow. Iceland had not seen a total solar eclipse since June 30, 1954. Spain was hosting Europe's first totality since 2015. That scarcity pushed attention toward a thin strip of land. Spain's regional governments selected 660 official viewing sites to handle an expected influx of more than 440,000 people. Those official sites were not built to increase the number of hotel rooms, they simply organized where people would stand. So the same fixed map from the astronomy charts became a fixed map of lodging. Every room inside or near the path was suddenly a scarce asset, and the market began to treat it that way. The valve was opening not by adding supply, but by confirming how much demand would arrive. That confirmation traveled through every hotel, hostel, and booking platform in the path. A fixed shadow, a narrow strip, and a limited room inventory, that was the valve. No new rooms, no new cities, no new date. The path was already locked. Then the price engine switched on. All locations where the eclipse was best seen experienced a surge in hotel room prices. CNBC reported that the total solar eclipse drove hotel prices in Europe to more than $1,000 a night. The Financial Times reported that hotel prices in Europe surged before the historic solar eclipse of August 2026. The Guardian reported the same jump, with Iceland and Spain among the destinations affected. This was not a hidden black market or a glitch. It was the visible operation of demand hitting fixed supply. A room that normally priced for an ordinary night became a four-figure asset because the shadow was passing exactly there, for exactly 2 minutes and 18 seconds. The eclipse was not the only thing moving, the pricing curve moved before the moon arrived. And across the reported surge, the reports did not describe any price cap, no external mechanism switching the number off. The price was the story, and it was allowed to run. For travelers, the shadow was 2 minutes. For sellers, it was a full revenue window. High room prices did not reduce the crowd, they confirmed it. With official viewing sites selected in rooms selling above $1,000, Spanish authorities estimated between 1.5 million and 6 million people could be on the road on Eclipse Day. The response was physical, 24,000 police officers deployed. Above the traffic, NASA-supported teams plan to launch 80 scientific balloons in Iceland and 6 in Spain to study how the eclipse affected Earth's atmospheric boundary layer. Even NASA's WB-57 high-altitude jet flew along the eclipse path at 50,000 feet and 460 miles per hour, stretching its view of totality from just over 2 minutes to nearly 3 minutes. On the ground, researchers had roughly 2 minutes to study the solar corona. The economy around the shadow was now a full-scale operation, not a quiet astronomy outing. Roads, skies, and scientific teams all moved because the shadow was about to touch the ground. The boom was no longer confined to hotel receipts, it had reached the highway, the launch pad, and the stratosphere. Here is what did not happen. Police were mobilized, official sites were mapped, and traffic plans were drawn. But in the reporting on hotel prices, no authority appeared with a hard ceiling on what a room could charge. The same European lodging market that allowed a room to jump above $1,000 also allowed the next room to price itself freely. There was no moment in the reports where a regulator stepped in and capped the surge. That absence is the entire point. The eclipse was not a power outage, a hurricane, or a sudden emergency. It was a scheduled celestial event. And because it was scheduled, the high prices were not a hidden failure, they were an open outcome of demand meeting fixed supply. The crackdown never came because the system was not designed to treat a predictable shadow as an emergency. It treated it as a travel event, and travel events get travel prices. No cap, no ceiling, no legal lid. After the moon moved on, the 2-minute shadow left behind questions that money cannot answer. A hotel room that sold for more than $1,000 did not become a better room, it simply sat inside the path of totality for 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Researchers, meanwhile, had roughly 2 minutes to study the solar corona, and then it was gone. The money did not disappear. It moved into the lodging markets of Iceland and Spain, into the balance sheets of every operator that had a room along the line. The official viewing sites emptied, the traffic cleared, and the eclipse moved out over the ocean. But the receipts stayed behind. And the next time a fully predictable shadow crosses the map, the market will already know what the last one charged. The real legacy of the 2026 eclipse is not the astronomy. It is the price tag the open system attached to a slice of darkness. The eclipse was free to watch, but not free to sleep through. The eclipse answered the question in the title. 2 minutes of totality was worth more than $1,000, and there was no price cap in the reports to stop it. The system let sellers charge any price because the event was predictable, the supply was fixed, and the demand had no alternative. When the shadow passed, the money stayed with the rooms. The next time a rare shadow is mapped years in advance, the only open question is whether the price will be higher and whether anyone will step in to cap it.